the Church of Scientology is so afraid of.
This is SPTV.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody, or morning or night. You know, we had people like watching us at 3 a.m. in Australia, Cassie. Like somebody was on the chats today. It's like, oh, it's 3 a.m., but I couldn't miss this live.
Oh
And
my
that was
gosh,
great.
I love that. Love that we can keep you company at 3 a.m.
Well, you know what? It's a very international movement. And, you know, not to make it about us again, Scientologists, but not to make it about us, you know, the whole flair in these hotels was that they were very international, right? So we felt it was so legit because we met people from so many places of the world. And that's what kind of gave it some sort of like pseudo sophistication, you know, because you're like, oh, you're from France, oh, you're from Switzerland, oh, your family's into this too, and it's everywhere. So we're like, of course this is legit. So
Yep, it's crazy. Well, I'm excited to talk about today's subject and make it all about Scientology. All about you guys.
well,
Because
yeah,
I think it's necessary.
unfortunately, I feel like, you know, it's, you guys, we had a whole plan, and thank you everyone to wait it for us. We really appreciate your patience. There's just like a lot going on, so we appreciate that you guys were waiting here for this little live. But Cassie and I had to scratch our entire plan. We had been working on a totally different story, and with this Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher situation, we literally had to scratch everything and sort of go from scratch, you know, because we see that there's, you know, there's a lot of still half-baked narratives out there, not getting cooked properly because people are lacking insight and people are lacking an in-depth look into the weeds, because this is a complex subject and there are a lot of things to consider. So it's not just like, let's sit here and demonize these people against those people because these people are so stupid and pathetic. No, it's about really expanding, broadening the horizon of the vision of what's happening from all sides of this disgusting wheel of abuse that makes not a shred of sense in this year 2023. You know, maybe it made sense when L. Ron Hubbard pitched it back in the day, but today it just makes not a shred of sense.
I agree. I think it's really interesting, the conversations that are happening around this, around Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis writing letters. And I'm encouraged because I think a lot more people are asking the right questions, but it is still a lot of people, I think, not understanding the whole picture. So I'm excited for us to talk about this because I want to explore like the root of Scientology in enabling not only Danny Masterson, but Ashton and Mila, and like what might lead them to do something like that. Because I keep getting a lot of questions when I make content about this, you know, are Ashton and Mila Scientologists, or what role did Scientology play in them writing their letters? And I'm like, it's so complicated and nuanced. And I almost feel like we have to listen to the ex-Scientology community to understand this in its full depth, because there's just so much to it.
Yeah, absolutely, Cassie. I mean, you know, we had a front row seat at this dysfunction. We forged what we thought were bonds and friendships with these people at these hotels. And, you know, when I arrived in Los Angeles, I was never part of the inner core of that clique of, you know, Scientology celebs, because I had been an ex-Sea Org member. So that meant that I was a degraded being. So even if you signed a contract when you were 12 and you got out, you were still told you were a degraded being because you broke the contract. So you were kind of kept at arm's length from the celebs. You were not supposed to be on celeb lines. But at the time of the circumstances of here moving to Los Angeles, due through family connections, I was very tied to the celebs. And so I was always kind of like on the skirts of this group of, what everybody thought were the cool kids. In Scientology, they were pitched ad nauseum as these are the ones to represent what you want to really be, have all this power, all this influence, all these people that really are looking up to you, commanding the media, opening businesses, partnering up, bringing, roping in Laura Prepon brownie points, roping in this other person here to, sing our little like Christmas charity so that everybody sees that, we're just like any old people, brownie points. So the incentives are always aligned towards all these like horrific, exploitative AF motives, right? Because it's like, it's not in anyone's best interest to be in this disgusting hotel, literally.
Right. Right. So you knew you were in the circle and had interactions with the Masterson family, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I was never besties with any of them. They always kept me at arm's length.
Yeah.
The family member that I had was literally next to them. So I was always invited to this part. I didn't go to all the parties, obviously. There were parties I wasn't invited to. Like those, they were always having barbecues. They were always having pool parties. They were always having poker nights. They were always having bar nights. They were always opening at the best club in, Teddy's on the Roosevelt. They were after Paris Hilton and Lindsay and Britney vacated, sort of like being like the night girls, these kind of guys moved in and they were known everywhere in Hollywood. They were at the always hottest, best places. They were the cool people, they all moved in as a group. They all gave each other like opportunities, real estate, partnerships, restaurants endorsed and opened by this. They had a whole business model that they all would collect this, that. We're all business partners, open up a hot Korean barbecue place, and da 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 da. And all looked so, affluent and cool, like, so that's who they were back in the day. As much as everyone's like, oh, why didn't anyone do anything? Like, that was the power, that was the image, that was where their PR was at. Fast forward to 2023, right. This is where their PR is at, because PR is something that, as much as Scientology pretends that they can control it 24/7, they can't, because there's no manner of lies they can spat out now that can start making sense of what you were just saying, Cassie. Like this hostage video of these multi-millionaires, $275 million combined, Ashton and Mila, that goes to Congress and speaks on issues and doesn't come across as a bumbling idiot. Then he's very concise, he's very intellectual, he knows all the lingo that all the people speak that are the tech bros and the Congress people. So yeah, he's talking all the right things. He's hitting all the marks like a good little actor that he is. But again, it's like, this is what you call in Scientology, Cassie, contrary facts. You cannot be the CEO of Thor, literally tapping yourself to really save a lot of slaves of sexual abuse, the most vulnerable, literally the kids. And on the other side of your mouth, be writing these type of letters. Those two things like couldn't be more diametrically opposed. So it doesn't make sense.
Right. I think it's really interesting to think from a cult perspective how a system like Scientology, you and I talk about the systemic issues that are baked into the thing a lot. And thinking about how a system like Scientology often enables other predators to carry on that system in their own ways. There are people in power in those systems and people who are oppressed in those systems. And I found it really interesting that Chrissy Bixler posted that Danny Masterson was kind of like a cult leader on the set of that 70s show, and how Topher Grace was often the scapegoat and the one excluded. And Ashton seemed to be kind of Danny's like right-hand man, his second in command. And when you think about like the cult that I came from, Assemblies of God is kind of like a big cult-like system, but they enable all of these churches to be individual cults as well within that system. So I think if we approach the Ashton and Mila and Danny Masterson situation through that lens, we can see how this system enabled Danny in his predatory behavior in several different ways. And I almost wonder, at what point did he have Ashton and Mila in the cult of Danny Masterson? And then at what point did Ashton Kutcher also become high up in the cult of Danny Masterson and also become not the best person in that system? And then his kind of tendency to have bad behaviors were enabled in that as well. And I think that would help explain the absolute insanity that the rest of us can see as complete cognitive dissonance. But to Ashton and Mila might just be another day in the cult of Danny.
Well, those are such great points that you're making, Cassie, and there's a lot of insight in everything you just said. And I think that even before commenting on Danny, right? Who is puppeteering Danny?
Right.
Who is manipulating Danny, right? Because it's like all the attention is on Danny, as if he did this on his own, as he just woke up one day as a literal baby, and he made a lot of decisions for himself as a child, including but not limited to prancing around across state lines at 9 years old to fund Carol Masterson's desire, to fund what took place in those hotels day in and day out. They were all about endorsing it. It's literally the example of put your money where your literal mouth is. That's the problem with these parents. And the parents are helicopter parents from literal hell that don't understand boundaries, that don't apply a shred of boundaries, that are running around infantilized, self-infantilized. All those science fiction writer books of garbage sold them an infantilized version of themselves. They wanted to go play a game. Well, be a fucking adult before you go play a game. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's like, but they were playing a game. Oh, yeah. And all of that gave them this like deranged delusion of grandeur, that because they completed a 2-week course inside a hotel room that they got a certificate for, that now entitled them, to do what they learned and paid for at the hotel. Like, and we were gonna bring up this, Kelsey, what's the name of the Mormon mom that's facing literally 6 felony counts of child abuse?
Ruby Frankie.
That I even part of this, I'll get into it because I think actually makes sense right now to bring her in, because she's facing 6 felony counts, and she was already weird on YouTube, and she was all about displaying that very a la Scientology mom, entitled, dejected from reality, narcissistic AF. They can't even see past their nose because they're so caught up in their own my beliefs and no one else, and they have not a shred of self-awareness of what the hell they're doing to their kids, right? And then she got even more extreme when she got coupled up with that other woman It's been said that she got even influenced to go worse. And Lori Day Vallow, the same thing, another cult mom that was kind of weird already on the fringes of all that dysfunction, but then you can go deeper down the rabbit hole into complete psychopathy, lured into those places. Maybe
And
Mhm.
I was going to say, Carol Masterson was a stage mom. So she was also raising her kids in the cult of child stars, right? I don't know how early Danny started working and acting, but
As a
he was still a
baby.
minor, I think.
There's literally
Yeah.
baby photos of him. I think it was like Gerber. Like it was like, and we've seen like how that turns out for all of these things, right? Drew Barrymore, she speaks about how hard it was for her to be adulticized, right? Because both Hollywood and Scientology adulticize children. Oh, you can do it. Oh, aren't you great? Oh, aren't you so lucky? Oh, aren't you the chosen one? Oh, aren't you the prodigy? And thank God that, Hollywood is all messed up right now, not having to be able to work because, Hollywood, very much like Scientology, is getting found out. People don't want to work for them anymore because they're also running their own master slave society themselves. That's why people are literally striking. And it breaks my heart, Cassie, because I drive by them every day and people are out there picketing, and it's like, they're not getting the $10 million that the big, Ashton Kutchers and Milas are getting, with their $275 million combined, that their hearts go out to a lot of things, but they never put their money where their mouth is. It's all a PR smokescreen. Oh, well, I'm already doing so much for the world, sir. Don't you know I'm solving child trafficking of slaves at scale with my really great technology that doesn't find that slavery in the hotels that I frequent, that I go to like literally there's photos of him at Celebrity Center.
Yeah, it doesn't work well enough to find it close to home. It doesn't work well enough to realize the call's coming from inside the house. So what are they doing? What
So
are they
what
even
is this?
doing?
This is all
And
just
I'm reading
clownery. Just straight up
Yeah,
clownery.
I'm
It's straight
reading
up.
Yeah. Jill Duggar, from, like, 19 Kids and Counting and, like, that family, she just released her memoir, came out yesterday. I've been reading that, haven't been able to put it down, and, like, there's a parallel there as well with these parents putting their kids in entertainment, in the limelight. The parents have narcissistic tendencies, narcissistic practices that they use to control these kids for profit and within systems of religious cults. And I see like Carol Masterson and Danny Masterson and the Masterson kids in a very similar way, even though the Duggars were reality stars. We're seeing this happen over and over and over. And it blows my mind that we're still shocked and we're still wondering why this happens when there are people studying this and there are people pointing to these issues. And yeah, it's wild, the connections. And when you think about the parents' involvement in this, was Carol Masterson like a first generation Scientologist? Was she recruited into Scientology?
I believe she was. And, I think like all of our parents almost have the same profile, right? They all went in young as fuck themselves. Like my parents were, I think, in
Yeah.
their like early 20s when this was pitched, right? And it's like, I mean, yes, I am throwing acid in my parents' face right now, but I'm also able to understand that they were told this was a New York Times bestseller. In what type of intelligence was available to them in the year 1976 when they got into this or whatever, like they got into it like early 70s, mid 70s, right? This was presented to them as technology, a la Steve Jobs. Here's your technology. Here's your e-meter. This machine is technology. It's a tech company. Scientology is a literal tech company that data mines its end users, but uses blackmail at a level that no tech company does it with a straight face, but they do. It's like the tech bros didn't put a cross in front of their whatevers, their multi-million-dollar whatevers, that we're finding out that, all manner of these billionaires are corrupt AF. the Facebook people, it's like they're all just into literally purporting that they really want to help humanity while screwing up humanity, literally. Like, because the money the numbers never lie. So why in the literal hell do you need billions and trillions and you cannot stop what people do in your platform? You cannot stop arbitrating those connections because we really want a free world, but problem cannot be solved by anyone in the tech companies of these disgusting platforms that are just data mining its end users for profit. Data mining. Scientology does it. The tech bros do it. The Hollywood people do it. Ashton just showed us the threesome they're all having, the tech people too. It's like everyone plays dumb, Cassie. Like that is all they do. The laws are in the books. The studies and the research has been done. Child development could not be more MF clear. It's called common sense. It's called breaking it down so everyone can have a fucking actual guide of common sense, right? That people studied and see, and it's like, but all the misinformation, people can't, they cannot stop getting fed BS. With no critical thinking skills, they're supposed to take this all for themselves and literally just go with the flow, whatever the hell the news is pitching today. Ashton and Mila, couple of the year, were they really couple of the MF year? Because it would be really nice to get pitched that little story again and see if we can buy it on the newsstands.
Yep. Yeah, sorry. I think my internet's going in and out a little bit, so I caught most of what you're saying, but if I disappear for a second, that's why. But I agree, and I'm glad that this is coming out specifically with Ashton Kutcher on such a scale, because I think we can people have not questioned him for years because of his involvement with Thorn. And we see that happen with other cults as well.
Oh, she just left. But I like where she was going with these questions, you guys, because, Ashton has not been at all questioned for Thorn because there were no receipts, there were no, we know this is something that really we can talk about and we really know. There was no public statement where he literally hung himself out to dry in an unthinkable way. Like literally that those letters couldn't have been more, very much following the real MO of how the Scientology handlers think. I mean, I don't even understand. Like people are saying, oh yeah, their PR team must have put them together, but those letters were not put together by anybody. Or I mean, again, I think I made this point too, Cassie, like if you were going to write a letter to a judge, wouldn't you think you would really think about what you're writing, like even more? Like you're literally writing a letter to a judge. Yeah. Like, hello, did you miss that part of the letter?
I don't know if you said anything about this when I was gone, but do you think, so your thought is that Carol Masterson probably reached out to Ashton and Mila and asked them to write the letters. Do you think that she had any involvement in writing or editing them?
Well, I mean, I love that you're going there.
Or
exactly,
if Scientology had any involvement?
Well, this kind of brings us back to our first thing that we were talking about, right? It's like, let's talk about the cult of Danny, and I think we need to decompress that. But then let's first talk about Carol, because that's where it started, right? The mom had the influence on Danny. Yeah. So let's go back to Carol. So to your point. And yes, I mean, in my prior video, I talked about how Carol was called the terminal. Carol is Danny's terminal. And that's what we were told. Like that was the word they used. Like, go talk to your terminal. And then that was basically the euphemism of go talk to the person that can hear this type of information out of you. Okay, so for Danny to have been involved in an out 2D, which is what he was convicted of, that's what the term is, You know, you never say what he got convicted of. Everyone in the hotel is calling it out to D. So it sounds like this technology term. I mean, you even have the actress Taryn going like, he made a mistake. And it was like, yeah, that's how they really feel, you guys. Like they call it an out to D. You floated it. It disappeared out of you. You know, never mind that some of us are not really buying that pitch in this year 2023 anymore. I mean, we bought it when we were there. I could tell you, Cassie, like out to these were floated out of me. Never mind that that doesn't mean anything. Never mind that that actually put me in harm's way to think that something was being addressed when it wasn't whatsoever being addressed, when it was actually being, when I was being intellectually abused just to start at one point. Like, why in the literal hell would I be told as a child that being asked about an L2D, which is what Danny Masterson was convicted of, be helpful to me and any other last shred of child inside of those hotels? Why is that the way these people are speaking to kids, you guys? Because that is really what it boils down to. Like, how in the hell are you replacing literal words in the literal English language and cancel out in those hotels this word while replacing it real quick with a word that literally means nothing to anyone outside of an L. Ron Hubbard protege in those hotels? Out to D. So when anyone can explain why these two things exist together, why we have two post-its that everyone can see here for themselves, what in the hell they say, what in the hell they mean inside of a Scientology hotel. These are the two words that these adults that really think that L. Ron Hubbard had a shred of a clue what in the hell he was talking about, really bought the pitch and then really sold that pitch to their, including but not limited to, kids, underage kids, where we had not a shred of clue how to combat this very false definition that was being sold inside of those hotels by every last Scientology executive that took it upon themselves to be an executive in those hotels, and every last minor and parent who was taught that these two were things that you could just go like that. Oh, it's the same, just depending on where you're writing it, go like this and go like that, and just, you know, put it in the, oh no, you're going to write a report? You're going to write a KR? No. If you're going to write a KR, just write this. So don't ever put it in writing saying this, just always write it like this, okay? It's just this, and you know, your needle's about to float. Your needle is about to float. So, you know, going back to Cassie, who, you know, you guys, we apologize for her because, you know, there's a little bit of internet problems where she is right now, since that there is a storm going on. So, but I think, like, let's continue contextualizing what she was just talking about, because what's not being contextualized is in these media outlets is the involvement of the parents. Yes, we get it. Danny was the one that committed the crime. Yes. Danny's the one that's convicted. Yes. Are all the parents innocent until proven guilty? Yes, in a courtroom, but we already know what in the hell we saw when we were there. And we already know what type of roles these parents were putting themselves on, purporting that they can do whatever in the hell they wanted to with a child, including but not limited to Danny Masterson, who could have possibly developed some horrific, disgusting coping mechanisms for what scourge his parents exposed them to as well. So yes, Taryn, you know, we're not just here to tell Danny what a horrible person he is. He is who he is. And we do get to contextualize what his mom and his manager and his auditor and his DOP and his case supervisor and his every last shred of BS title that she self-infantilized to believe meant something that was going to be in the best interest of Carol Masterson's kids, eroding all common sense boundaries to have her little power trip about how she really learned a lot from a self-admitted felon in a hotel called Celebrity Center, called Flag Service Organization. I mean, literally the hotels couldn't be more corporate if they didn't have the word organization on it. But never mind, that's what the IRS is finding extremely religious in this year 2023. An organization could not be more 501c if they literally could not be a 501c. And you have Ashton, besties of Danny, going to Danny, discussing, again, since they were really such best friends, including but not limited to what has already been reported about this serial killer, literal serial killer, you guys. I mean, as if anyone could make any of this up if they literally tried. You know, this whole story just gets more disgusting and horrific by the second. It's like it's all coming undone. And the more receipts that come out and the more things that are incongruent that cannot be explained by algorithms, including but not limited to algorithms of YouTube that are now, you know, sending out all manner of other videos of Ashton when he was really having a health crisis himself. I mean, literally, you guys, like now I'm getting all of these reports about Ashton and his health and this and that. And it's like, it's not like his PR team could be pushing those videos into algorithms at all, telling E-News, Entertainment News, hey, can you guys repost that video about, you know, Ashton really having a health crisis? Because it would really come in handy right now to, you know, pitch him as a real sympathetic person. I mean, you guys really think that the $275 million that the two are worth are not working to actively launder their image? Is the year 2023, you guys, like what kind of stupidity is being passed in this country as if we don't know how YouTube works? As if we don't know how the media and the corporate media works? As if we don't know how all of these horrific incentive of finances couldn't be more crooked if you literally went like this on this post-it note, right? Like all the media's incentives are like this. Scientology's incentives are like this. They're all tied to money. They're all tied to the dysfunction that keeps this corruption breathing, multiplying, proliferating AF unchecked, with everyone around us playing dumb full time. Literally nothing else but this is what we get in this year 2023. Go to the Tampa Bay Times. What are they going to do? Play dumb full time. Go to the Clearwater Police. What are they going to do? They're going to play dumb full time. Go to the LAPD Human Trafficking Division, and what are they going to do? Well, they're going to play dumb full time as well. So that's what we want to not run across anymore. People playing dumb. And here's Cassie right back.
Hey.
Hello.
We'll see how long it lets me stay this time.
I'm glad you
Thanks
came
for
back.
carrying while my service decided to.
Well, you know, we
do
were
whatever.
already going down the rabbit hole to the police.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. Were you talking about how, like, the connection with Ashton Kutcher and, like, why he
Well,
might
just the
find that
connection with
loyalty?
all these agencies, Cassie, like, you know, and even in the case it's like they've been notified, they've had suspicious activity all over everywhere, and in decades and decades and decades of these places existing, nobody knows anything and nothing could have possibly been prosecuted. It's like, it's just not nothing. I mean, I'm sorry, like, it's just not, it's laughable.
It is. It is. Did you see all of like there are more victims even coming out now
No.
after the prosecution, which tends to happen? Yeah, there's been a couple of girls on TikTok talking about parties that they went to with that crowd back in the day. And luckily for the two stories that I saw, it didn't go as far as it did with the Jane Does, but there were attempts made. I don't know how much we can say on YouTube. I will try to link those TikToks in the description of my video so that when we're done here, people can go watch them. But yeah, the sheer number of people that this happened to, frequency occurrence, you cannot tell me that law enforcement had not a clue for all these years.
Yeah, it's just, and again, like I told you, it was the MO, it was the SOP, the standard operating procedure, and it was sort of like the breeding ground of recruitment too, right? Because you got invited to a barbecue with a bunch of celebs at a pool. We're gonna have a pool party. There's gonna be, I mean, you talk about networking events. I mean, you talk about really getting to see Jason Lee at a barbecue with Danny, with Ashton, with Laura Prepon, with Wilder Valderrama, with, photographer, fine art photographer Alex Prager. Like, they're all industry heavy hitters AF themselves. They're all worth multi-millions themselves. Oh yeah, come party with Rebecca Minkoff too. And you wouldn't know unless you knew, and unless you were vetted, and unless you were trusted, and unless people were really going to want to have anything to do with you in that party. Like, they were not inviting just any old random. They were, selective about who was coming there. They were, they were like, what are they going to bring to the table? They're not just talking to any old Joe Schmo. Everybody had a place in that, in what you said, Danny was the top, and then he had a deputy, and then it wasn't organized. Like, they didn't come up with titles like they did in the hotels. I mean, the organization at the hotels is MF serious, like captain of the blah blah blah, this director of inspector of general network of affairs of this, like all these clown titles from these people that are just wearing a military uniform. And I've been posting photos of that, Cassie, on my community. And people have been like really commenting on the stolen valor, like the clownery that it really is, the insult to everyone's intelligence in this. Honestly, it's like, what is this? Honestly, it's like, what?
I feel like that was a really early version of L. Ron Hubbard trying to gain credibility. Like, look at how organized we are, look at how honorable we are, look at our ethics are on par with something that society saw as a very honorable and ethical group. And then when you think about Ashton Kutcher and having an organization like Thorn, that I think for a lot of celebrities like Marisol Nichols, who's also a Scientologist, for a lot of celebrities, that's a thing that they can point to. That's, look at us, look at how great we are, look at how honorable we are, we're saving the children. When you and I know that can't possibly be what they're doing, because the institutions they're involved in are harming children. So they can't possibly be saving the children. But it's so similar to the military uniforms being used as a front. I personally think it's all being used as a way to stop people from asking questions and to stop people from like dissenting or thinking that there are bad motives or selfish motives or profit motives behind what these people are doing, when it's just the same systems over and over again, and they're all using the same playbook. And Scientology is often because thankfully all of you guys are talking about this so much, I think that Scientology is becoming such an example of how we can find these systems in other places. And I think as long as we keep talking about this when everyone else is just talking about the celebrities and just talking about Ashton Kutcher, I think that people are going to start to catch on because it's everywhere.
Yeah, well, and we can thank all these people for their sacrifice on giving us the
Right.
playbook. Literally, like, thank you for y'all's sacrifice. Now we have the playbook. Now we have the receipts. In case we didn't learn how this turned out for the Germans back in the day when they were also all about superior races, when they were all about, being real know-it-alls of dehumanizing people, because dehumanizing people really is something amazing. It's like, no.
Mhm.
It's like the pitch was already pitched to you by the Germans. If you didn't learn your lessons from that time period, you should have really have learned your lessons from that time period. As much as America sits here, beacon of freedom for the whole world, with that same face, they
Mhm.
enshrined a psychopath, a literal degenerate from hell, a literal convicted, indicted felon is what the real joke is here, Cassie, because it's like,
Yeah.
we don't even have to consider the religious rights of anything. It's as if right now Danny would write a little book for himself, write some memos explaining all manner of deranged ideas, go
Yeah.
himself get a lawyer, and then all of a sudden he would just be propped up as like, yeah, Danny Masterson, convicted, indicted felon, told us that this is how you could do it, and then call it a religion. I mean, that is who L. Ron Hubbard is to child trafficking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we talk about like the family systems and the family dynamics of like Carol Masterson and how she would have raised them, do you have any insight on why Danny's siblings would have been there every day of trial? Like what would they be thinking in that situation? And I made a video about Alana Masterson. I believe Jane Doe 1 called her out specifically in her victim impact statement. She said the defendant's sister intimidated me in the bathroom. And I've gotten a little bit of pushback on that and people not thinking that Alana could be capable of something like that. But again, the system, the cult of Scientology, the cult of the Masterson family, what do you think the siblings, why were they there in support?
Well, because again, Cassie, we have to look at this from their state of mind and level of self-awareness, given the data anorexia that they've been imposed on them, right? Since literal children. It's like
Right.
Alana, very much like, it reminded me sort of like when, Charles Manson's people were being thrown into the court and they were making a mockery out of the whole process. Because they're like,
Yes.
it's like, it almost is like that, but these guys do it more in a more sophisticated way, right? Like, but they were there to intimidate. They were there to really, again, it's all about optics, right? Well, he couldn't be guilty if his entire family was behind him, right?
Right.
Like, Carol Masterson wouldn't know what he literally did the first time he did it. The first time he ever had a problem with that, she would have been told, she would have been informed, she would have been notified. Time, place, form, and event. Cassie, literally, like, God forbid you don't get time, place, form, and event. Like, exactly how, exactly where, exactly how many times, exactly where, exactly the position, exactly every last shred of detail, or otherwise your needle won't float. So where
Mhm.
the possible, like, people that say, oh, but yeah, what about the plausible deniability? The plausible deniability was shredded by degenerate L. Ron Hubbard, because he told them to erode plausible deniability, become 100% complicit, record it all, video record it, have it all. So that's the problem with Carol. She knew from the very first time he did it. But of course, the optics of my whole family showing up, then he couldn't have done it. His siblings would have
Yeah.
known that he was in ethics trouble. That is how it's called. Now,
Yeah.
I know that it's hard for people to be like, yeah, but how could, they're in their mind being told that their brother, convicted of what he got convicted of, had an out ethics situation, not a conviction of an R. Never mind that, L. Ron Hubbard told everyone to misunderstood were the things to crash your life. Well, yeah, no shit. If you
Yeah.
literally think that literally what he got convicted of is an out ethics, I mean, do you see how watered down it sounds when you really kind of really think that out ethics means something? It's like, oh, but he's just had an out ethics. We have the technology. We'll get his ethics in. And in those
Yeah.
3 sentences, you already justified it 100% in your head. And it's like,
Yeah.
you're
So
the
it's,
idiot that doesn't get it, right? It's like they're always like, you're the idiot that doesn't get it. You're the stupid one that doesn't understand what those 3 words that I just said that mean a lot in those hotels is.
yeah. So it's not even from my understanding that they think he's innocent. Like they know that he's guilty of something. Who knows what all details all of the family members know. But they know that he did it.
Well,
That's
and
not like
Cassie, here's the problem though, right? It's like, and I get how from an outsider's perspective, we always want to be measured in how we speak about this because maybe they don't know, maybe I knew.
yeah,
I wasn't anything to him. He
yeah,
didn't even know me before I knew about this. Because I knew
right,
him inside Scientology. I knew he was the guy in the tech film. I knew the girl that was in the tech film with him. Then she became my student and then she came and told me everything that happened.
right,
When we were both minors and it was just like, oh yeah, I had an out to eat, then I got told to sign a contract and then I got shipped here and I'm having a jolly old time at the hotel. I couldn't be more happy what I'm doing right now. I mean, Rob, the girl that was my student, that I'm just like, she couldn't have said it with more of a gloss stuff. She blamed it on her. She was like, I had an out to eat. And then I realized that my responsibility needed to come up. So then I really convinced myself to sign a billion-year contract because I really wanted to come to Florida and they really wanted to have us both in opposite sides of the country. So yeah, nothing has been brought up about her. Nobody even knows her name. Nobody even knows who she is. Nobody gives an F.
right.
Literally. And
Yeah,
it's like as if Carol Masterson didn't know that. And you know what? If Chris and Jordan and Alana have not a shred of a clue about that, again, it's unbelievable because again, every one of those families had no shred of boundaries in privacy, that everybody knew everybody, everything. And it's what's so abominable and incestuous and disgusting AF. I mean, literally, like, that's why I'm like, they don't have a plausible deniability because
right,
this was all about sharing reports and sharing info and what came up on your session and what came up on yours and being spoken in this language that always sanitized it, but it couldn't be more soiled and it couldn't be more literally liquid feces. What everyone is like, literally
right.
showering. Literally, oh
I
yeah, we're
appreciate
bathing.
I appreciate that insight so much, and I think that's such an important part of it, and I think that what you guys want people to understand and what I, as someone who looks into cults, wants people to understand is that it's not that they believe he's innocent, it's that they believe they are above societal justice. They think that they have higher purpose and better ways of doing things, the right way of doing things, the most ethical way of doing things. And that ethical way includes victim blaming and believing that people bring it on themselves. And they have a really traumatizing way of dealing with all of this. And they just don't think that going through what Scientologists will call the WOG world justice system is worth anything or going to do anything. I call it the real world. Like they don't exist in reality. None of them are grounded in any kind of reality. They
And
just don't think that it's worth having justice in this way. And the problem is everyone else in this society follows this level of justice and this way of doing things and a more healthy and like science-based
it's
understood
not
way
even
of doing
about that, Cassie, because it's a collective of adults that has been defrauded, right? They've
yeah,
been told that they have a technology that supersedes this
right,
other thing. So it is and it isn't, right? So they bought a pitch that they are superior and better.
yeah,
That's all literally what their whole entire case hinges on, the fact that they really do believe inside those hotels that do operate very a la Elizabeth Moss in Maine and State. There is no laws inside those hotels except what the pitches from an indicted, convicted felon say to do. So That's why this is like literally the most disgusting, horrific, unthinkable, right? It's like, talk about no warning sign on the MF label. What in the literal hell is the New York Times endorsing these books, endorsing this literature,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because people who buy this because says, oh, it says the New York Times here. Well, they really must know what in the hell they're doing at that paper, because we really all look up to that brand that says New York Times bestseller, and everybody goes, oh, wow, amazing. And, well, this is a convicted felon that has been
Right.
given a 19 New York Times bestsellers on his books.
Right.
So
It's based on lies. There's no informed consent.
it's
It's
literally eroding all common sense and pitching to do the opposite of any possible. It's also indefensible in it of itself. Like the memos and the books are the ones that are pitching the dysfunction, right? So it's hard sometimes to almost dehumanize, even Danny and his posse, because they became dehumanized by the system and the memos that they're also pressed to really follow, because they're getting whipped AF. They're getting punished AF. I mean, I even said about Carol, she's getting literally, like, you have no idea what type of pressures on that woman to be making those desperate attempts to whatever pitch any of the family members that reached out to the Kutchers, whatever desperate pitch was done in that phone call that we will never know because we were not privy to that call. And yeah, take your privacy when you need it. By all means, take it, Ashton, take it. We don't need to hear the call between what transpired when that family was really reaching out to you, and who in that family was asking you to do what exactly, and what kind of things had to be discussed in that negotiation for you to have, done that thing to yourself. You're not an idiot. You're not a stupid person. So if you make that type of mistake, why would you make it? Why would you put something on the record like that, where you thought no one was watching? I mean, the cheater wife, he literally cheated on Demi Moore on a bowling alley with a 21-year-old. I mean, he couldn't be more fake, honestly. And that's what's coming undone, Cassie. And the thing is, like, everyone's like, oh, don't cancel it. It's like, cancel what? What in the literal hell are we canceling? Honestly. This man that has really shown his true colors, that has been enabled by unthinkable, horrific, evil AF cults such as Hollywood and Scientology that, right about now look like two peas in an MF pod. With all the wokes of Hollywood shutting the F up, muzzled. I mean, I didn't see any celebrities standing inside those, picket things, Cassie. Anytime I've driven by, I mean, I'm sure there's some on Instagram that we can all go check out for ourselves. But, the big time celebrities are not there with a picket fence. They're in their Malibu beach house. They're literally having a jolly old time while their slaves are really seeing if they get a shred of something thrown at them, because the Hollywood elites couldn't be bothered. Let's discuss the next Oscars. Let's really go to influencer of the year that we could really give an influencer award to, because we all should be really getting influenced by these pathetic clowns that couldn't be more of a clown show if they literally painted themselves with infantilized versions of what abominations truly are, as they purport to really, have a way to, shape the country to be a good country, with all these stories that really need to be told, like Handmaid's Tale, about a country that operates outside of the laws of America, like that country doesn't already exist inside those hotels. That's the Vatican of this MFs, literally child trafficking MFs.
Yeah, and people deserve to know the truth, and I find that interesting in our society as a whole, that people are even claiming cancel culture against someone like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, who are in positions of power, who do have that high net worth, who are Hollywood elites. Like, telling the truth is not canceling somebody. Telling the truth and seeing the truth of someone's actions and people being able to make their own judgments and decisions on that truth is not canceling. It's just telling the truth that was a lie before, and now the truth is coming to light.
Yeah. I mean, if the truth is going to kill them, then let them die. Because, the truth is a gift. The truth is actually a way for everyone that's under the scourge of this disgusting manipulation machine. It's like, in whose best interest is any of this? Is what the hell we want to ask ourselves in this year 2023. It's not about, oh, we don't want you to have your beliefs. We're advocating on behalf of y'all's best interest. It's called don't get involved with these fake AF hierarchies that mean nothing, that purport to give you a lot, but are they really giving you a lot? Or are they just enslaving you and literally making you commit all manner of bad decisions for yourself? None of these people have freedom, Cassie. Like, they could have $275 million and they couldn't be more enslaved if they didn't make a desperate video that they really thought that they were going to gaslight us all, because they're all worshiping money. At the end of the day, this is all just money worshiping. Whoever has the most money is worth the most. Whoever has the least is worth the least. So, why would $275 million millionaires be concerned about Jane Does that are definitely not worth, not even a scintilla of what they're worth? And these ladies are extremely successful for themselves.
Right.
But this is, again, we're over here. Oh, we really care about everybody. We're going to continue to care about people in the future, says Mila. Like, oh, good to know, Mila.
That was wild.
I mean, your
That
care.
was a wild statement.
Your care couldn't be more needed in the future, like, by all these kids that really have been growing up in the dysfunction that you had a front row seat too. Like, like you asked me, Cassie, are they Scientologists or not? You know what? We don't know is really the answer, okay? Because between us girls, there is plenty more Scientology people that are actors of Hollywood that nobody has a shred of a clue. Penelope Cruz being one of them. Penelope Cruz that really hired a publicist and really told everyone that, oh, guys, I really cut ties after me and Tom were nothing BS. Penelope Cruz knows very clearly for herself how much she was involved, how much auditing she got, how much auditing her mom got, how much auditing Monica Cruz got, how much auditing her own husband has been getting.
Yeah.
So before she goes, oh, you have not a shred of a clue, that the person that is auditing your husband, Penelope, was trained by me, FYI. His literal name starts with a C and then has a V for Victor. So before you pretend that you have not a shred of a clue, maybe see if that CV means anything, to see if we know what in the hell we are talking about. Since again, Penelope Cruz, amazing darling of Hollywood, isn't she the best in the world and whatever? Well, you know what, Cassie? We're sick of these celebrities that are funding the abuse that took place on our back at the expense of us, to just sit there with their little PR teams, really like laundering their image real quick with soaps and bubbles and talking to all manner of corporate media that are just happy to launder whatever in the hell it comes to them with. Never mind that there's kids in those hotels that don't have a shred of an advocate, literally, because everyone's so pressed about laundering whatever in the hell kind of information they really want to disclose, to really continue to curate the narrative. There's nothing to curate. Everything is disgusting, dysfunctional, and horrendous. And there's a ton of legal malpractice all around a contract that even Penelope got scammed.
Yeah.
Why in the hell is she doing this? Who sold her this BS? Who's her FSM? Who's getting 10% commissions on every 100 grand that she pays to this? Because going back to Danny, who was getting paid 10% commissions for everything that Laura was doing inside the hotel? And if he got Mila and Ashton in there too, well, somebody was making 10%. For every 100K, for every 10K, for every 500K, they get 10%, 10%, 10%. Standard operating procedure written in the memos of L. Ron Hubbard, because he really wanted to have a very religious. Huh?
like a freaking MLM.
I mean, it is what it is, you know, it
Yeah.
is what it is. And, you know, it sucks that everybody has been roped into this dysfunction and this disgusting scourge of fraud, of L. Ron Hubbard, an indicted, convicted felon, no less. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
doesn't pass the smell test at any type of level, Cassie. It's like, this is not religion. We need to stop calling it even the C word, because you know what? That's the IRS's misunderstood word. You know, you cannot sell us, pitch that this was the C word, because a convicted, indicted felon is the one that invented every last shred of book. So let's just start with that fact. When someone from the IRS can really call us and tell us, no, you couldn't be more wrong. Convicted, indicted felons can really start C's here, and then just, you know, I mean, then shout out to all the racketeering, you know, gangs out there. Go call the IRS and tell them, like, I want to get away with all the felonies I want. So give me also, I want to be 501c, please. And we'll just put a cross at the entrance, and then no one can come in. I mean, that is where we are in this year 2023. So that's why, like, you know, when we talk about law enforcement, we couldn't be more bored and yawning at y'all's lacking in ability to enforce a shred of law that is already written in the books. It's not like coercion and fraud are not literally the words of human trafficking in y'all's already existing laws. You don't need more laws. You don't need nothing. You just literally need to go do y'all jobs. Literally, go do it. It's hard. Sure. I'm sure it was. But, you know, they told you that it was going to be hard to be an FBI agent when you got hired. So stop complaining and stop telling us that it's very hard. Because 73 years later, y'all have done nothing to stop an indicted, convicted felon that everyone is running around pretending that he's not that. Go Google it for yourself. Convicted, indicted felon in absentia in France that convicted him for fraud, that he went on a ship on the run, grabbing more kids for himself. Oh, Janice, come here. Janice Gillum. Oh, Shelly Miscavige, come here. Come to this boat. As an 11-year-old, as a 12-year-old, Biddy Miscavige, you too, come here. Get into the boat. Come on. We're going to really have a religious experience in this boat.
Yeah.
So that convicted, indicted child trafficker felon cannot be stopped in the United States at all. Literally, nothing can be done. It's so confusing. It's so First Amendment right based, because really that's the dispute we should be having here. Like, oh, what's the First Amendment? God forbid we, you know, insult their religious right to believe what a convicted, indicted felon is pitching, as if that convicted, indicted felon couldn't be pitching ideas that lead to, including but not limited to, normalizing felonies perpetrated on kids, women at scale, on men as well. Because again, no one's benefiting from the wheel of dysfunction. It's like nobody. Literally, there is not one person that's like, oh yeah, I'm doing great for myself here. Doing what? Like dehumanizing others at scale and just having not a shred of second thought? Because that really is in your best interest of a human to be doing that, to be wasting your time, wasting it, role-playing L. Ron Hubbard's disgusting stuff. That's what you're seeing here. Like, Danny was unhinged. He developed those very horrific coping mechanisms because he was exposed to these disgusting memos.
Right.
And he wasn't alone. I mean, he's a poster child of this today, but he wasn't alone. The fact is, so many men in Scientology developed. I'm not saying that all of them developed to be exactly that, but then there's plenty of them that did too.
Right. There are a ton of predators within Scientology that are protected by Scientology, and this just happened to be a high-profile predator.
Well, and it created that environment. It bred that environment of dysfunction. It's like everybody was there, and it's like they really did think we were adults in small bodies, and we really did think that it was no big deal that we were being considered like that. You know, it's like as teenagers, it was kind of cool. People had to call you sir. Like I was being called sir as if I was somebody's literal senior. You know, like with respect, you know, I had the ability to humiliate others as a supervisor. Flunk, you didn't follow that. And if we didn't do that, Cassie, we would literally be held accountable for not being, for not screaming at people, for not flunking them. For it's a ridiculous clown show in there.
Right. It's encouraged and it's supported and it's taught.
applauded. It's literally like it is what it is. It's like that's why I say it's like, it's like a dominatrix environment, because it's all about humiliation and squashing and controlling and finishing and getting it done and get the statistics and work for the numbers. And it's like, where's there's no peace happening here. It's like everything was just like these like literal hotels from hell. I mean, it's like the dysfunction cannot be literally so all over the walls.
Yeah. How do you feel about people who, whenever we talk about these celebrities, when you or I bring up celebrities that are still in or are quietly in or under the radar in, how do you feel when people are like, oh, but they're brainwashed, or, oh, but they're second generation, they were raised in it, this mentality is encouraged, they don't know, what they're doing, or they haven't unpacked it yet, and we should be more empathetic to their situation and not call them out or tell everybody that they're a Scientologist? How do you feel about people who...
Well, look, I think that there's diversity and everyone's entitled to their own opinion about how everything needs to be done. I feel like some of us feel like, no, they need to be given tough love. They need to be told, we care that you're hurting yourself. Like, we're not going to pretend that you're not hurting yourself when you're hurting yourself. It's called intervention because we give a fuck. Like, if we didn't give a fuck, we wouldn't even talk anymore. We would have been literally far and away. Like, the fact that we have to come and revisit these horrific, disgusting subjects that open very real wounds in our lives. I mean, this isn't easy for our nervous system. I mean, to your point about, we're in recovery every day. It's like this doesn't get easier once you walk out of a hotel. Like, literally, like, all of those scars follow you, even if no one can see them. And that's what's so dangerous about, your mental health getting so compromised by all of this abuse, compounded abuse. So, part of the problem is people are not calling it for what it is, and they're not literally taking people out of the burning building because they're still purporting, well, people want to really smoke, inhale all that disgusting carbon monoxide. They really love it in there. And, it's like, maybe we couldn't stop adults. I mean, at Burning Man, we saw it, right? Like, somebody like ran into the Burning Man and literally killed himself. Like, nobody was able to stop an adult from doing that to themselves. But if that adult would have grabbed children, it would be unthinkable. Well, L. Ron Hubbard is the Burning Man, and he's the horrendous, disgusting devil. I mean, he's nothing to do with the other festival, although that's another chapter in its own. Burning Man, shout out to them. It did really rain in there. But it's literally that. It's like, you cannot grab kids and put them through that, expose them through that. So let's just start with that removal of things, right? Like, okay, if the adults really want to do it, maybe we don't have the right to tell them to stop it.
Right.
Never mind that they cannot keep calling, the R word an L2D, because that's not a thing. And somebody needs to tell those people that is not a thing. I'm sorry that insults you. I'm sorry that you really want to cry right now. I'm sorry that you bought the false pitch from a New York Times bestseller. I'm sorry for you. That's all. And if you have a problem, go write a letter to the New York Times. Why in the hell did you give 19? Don't you have an editorial board that checks it out? I mean, imagine if Ghislaine Maxwell would have a New York Times bestseller where she literally pitched and wrote that, massaging men by minors is a great thing that they should really do. Because L. Ron Hubbard wrote that in the first book, Cassie. Like, a little girl, 8-year-old, should not have a problem getting passionately kissed by a grown man. So it's again, it's that lack of boundaries, right? And Carol and my parents, and they all took that information from L. Ron Hubbard, took him at his word without a shred of critical thinking skills that they could even have. And that's what's so sick about this, right? Because that was a criminal aspect. And, they are hijacked, so dehumanizing them doesn't get us anywhere either, right? Because they are possessed. They are under undue influence. Would they be that way without the undue influence? We will never know. That's not an option for us to describe or check.
Yeah.
They're here and they're under this undue influence, right? It's like you might take crack and then you do some horrific things. Would you have done it if you were not under that undue influence? Maybe not. Maybe you would have been more, in the now instead of in this delusion.
Right. That's such a good point, and I like that analogy too. And the way that I see it, like when I make videos about any cult, celebrity cult members, because I do it for a lot of different cults, I'm not doing it to cancel the celebrity. I'm not doing it to not show empathy to the fact that they're under undue influence. I do it because I think everyone should know that this is what this person supports. And that celebrity should also have to look at it and be reminded, right? Like, yes, they are under undue influence. Yes, they were raised in it. Yes, all of those things. And if they're going to stay in, they should have to confront that cognitive dissonance. Like, I feel like that's the least that we could do as a society or a fan base that is propping this celebrity up on a pedestal already. The least we can do is say, hey, you're supporting this. I know you don't think you are, but you are. And I do think that over time, that does make a difference. It does play a piece in the puzzle. And one day, if a celebrity is asked in enough interviews, which they don't even get, like this doesn't even happen in interviews, but if enough interviewers were to be like, hey, I know you're a Scientologist, but like you realize that there's child trafficking going on in Scientology, right? You realize there are all these people that have left that have had horrific experiences. You realize that Danny Masterson was protected by Scientology for all these years, and there's proof of it, and it's in the court system. At some point, it does happen that different gears start turning and different thought processes start occurring, especially with celebrities that have one foot like in the real world, whereas Sea Org members, like you guys were so isolated. You had no access to the outside world or outside opinions. And I know
Right.
celebrities likely police themselves, but I think there should be a point where they can't. Like people ask them enough that one day they're like, fine, I'll look into it. And then when they do,
Well,
it will all.
and it'll come with the consequences, Cassie, and we're already there, right? Because now we have a full exhibit example of this very propped up, prominent member, because it's not like Scientology is not a pop culture. They made themselves be that, right? They went after Tom Cruise, they went after John Travolta, they went after Christy Alley, they went after every last prominent person that they really could have for themselves to prop up their image and to make them seem cool. And I mean, these celebrities are a big reason why people really can't hold those two truths at once. Like, no, there's no way that Tom Cruise would be behind this at such a level. Never mind that, again, it's like it's the memos of L. Ron Hubbard, it's the memos of the convicted felon that they're following that are getting called out, right? Like, don't take it personal. It's not you. It's not y'all. It's the memos that y'all are following to the letter. Literally, that's what they said it. Are you following to the letter what he said? Because, they all get whipped, literally told that they're disgusting, degraded people if they even change a single shred of word. So it's unthinkable that human people have been defrauded in this way, and all of these celebrities that are like, gonna really make it about themselves, like Penelope, instead of you targeting us here, little YouTubers that have nothing, maybe you should really start getting a defense criminal attorney that can tell you, like, what in the hell have you been involved in, and how in the hell can you have been defrauded by it, and how much money have you given it to it, and when should you really start getting a refund, and really actually join the movement of people that help. And it's not just her, it's Nicole, that also did leave, that did go all the way up to OT3 and now is nowhere to be found. And it's Katie, who literally did take her own daughter out of there but left all the other kids behind. And I guess, like, she can't be expected to use her platform to do a damn thing because it would be such an inconvenience. And here we are in the planet of inconvenience celebrities of Hollywood that cannot be bothered to do a shred of heavy lifting, but cannot stop telling us at events, how incredibly hard it is to be a celebrity. I get followed by the paparazzi every day. Isn't it suck to be me? Like, literally stop. Literally stop.
Literally stop.
Literally, all of you get on a little text message chain of ex-Scientologists and current actors, and then go to y'all's real powered attorneys and ask them if you could have been defrauded in any way, shape, or form by David and the rest of those hotel executives that you really did take it upon yourself to go tell them all manner of things that, maybe they're not that confidential as you think. Maybe they're not.
And imagine the impact that would have, right? Like imagine, like right now, with everything that's come out and all the lawsuits that are up against it, like that would be a huge movement forward, I think, for a lot of victims that are struggling in the courts right now. If people with the power and the resources can step up to have those conversations and do those things, it would make a bigger difference, because that is just how our society works right now.
I mean, I
Like,
would even
I
say
think
Alana, Chris, Jordan,
Yeah.
go get yourselves a real person that's going to advocate for y'all.
Yeah.
Sean Hawley does not seem to be one to be advocating for Danny. Sean Hawley seems to be having other fish to fry in her advocacy. That couldn't have been more pathetic. That couldn't have been more nothing to advocate for a kid that did grow up in Scientology. Because that's what's unthinkable to me, Cassie. Like, how in the hell, where did you miss the part where he grew up in Scientology? Did you miss the part where Carol was helicoptering around him as a child trafficking star that he was being milked for money? I mean, again, it's like he had anger issues, very horrific, disgusting issues that were being manifested not on the Mila Kunises of the world. He had a profile for the girls that he was attacking.
Yep.
And he had a way of grooming them, and he had a way of knowing which ones he was going to target and how and where and all of that. And he had cleaner uppers right behind him, cleaning it and cleaning it and cleaning it and being yes men to him. And that's what a cult leader is. It's a bunch of yes men. I mean, well, this is the yes men's from hell all over, repeated ad nauseum everywhere. It's like everybody needs to grab their spine on their way out of that hotel and really start confronting, facing the literal music. You created these choices for yourself as an adult. You consented. Well, take that contract that you did sign as an adult, for all of you that did sign that as an adult. Take it to your nearest lawyer and have them review it and have them really question what in the hell is written in that contract. And if you were having a religious experience, or if you could have been paying, including but not limited to, float away felonies that you were going to self-admit, like Danny Masterson. Because, it's not like they don't have all the files of exactly what you were admitting. It's not like they didn't video record everything. And going back to that point, Cassie, it's like, the idea, and I just saw it on the comments too about, Bijou Phillips, it's coming up from, growing up in Scientology, did a video that Bijou definitely knew. And you asked me about, they all know. I knew, everybody knows in there. It's like literally, it's like that this person, everybody knows. Like, did y'all not get the memo that these people like normalize to do everybody knows at scale? Like literally, like without a shred of thinking anything is weird. Like, I mean, everybody knew this person just was sent to ethics, guys. Oh my God, guess who got sent to ethics? Oh my God, guess who got sent to this one got sent to ethics? What did they do? This one went out to D. Oh my God, this one went out to D. Did you find out that this one went out to I mean, literally, like, you were lucky to be on that text chain of people in the know. Then you got kicked out of that text chain of people in the know. Then, you can't know anything anymore because we can't trust you. I mean, it's literally like mean girls from hell on wheels and a half, on crack, on acid, on every last possible shred of dysfunctional drug. But it's mean girls, like nothing makes sense. Nothing is okay. Everything is mental health crisis that all these people are really having. And that's why they really do need advocates. That's why they really need lawyers that goes, wait a minute, what in the hell? What happened? What did you get told to pay for? Who did you pay it to? What did they do to that? It's like Danny didn't make himself any favors when he didn't tell them that he gave them lots of money, real, literal, bank transferred, wire transferred into Celebrity Center, that I'm sure his mom would really have known why he was moving all of a sudden $100 and whatever thousands to go pay for something at CC, as if his momager wouldn't know that he's just going to pay for, just for some audits, but it's like, no, Cassie, like they'll say, yeah, he's paying for some audits to know what all of that means on the background, right? Because again, it's like everything is about getting in the weeds, not the surface here. Like if you look at it at the surface, like everybody does a lot of shit. Yeah, but these people just do it in the way that L. Ron Hubbard wrote in those memos. No one else has that technology, is what we were told. No one else.
Right. Oh man, it's absolutely crazy. Crazy. Do you think though that with this story blowing up so much, do you feel that some people are getting it right, and do you feel like you are noticing a difference in some people beginning to understand like this is ultimately a good thing that it's
Well,
coming
Chris
out?
Cuomo came across like, he's really looking at things,
Right.
in that interview that Aaron just did with him. I mean, never mind that the stepson of Danny Masterson did come on there and took it upon himself to say, yeah, Danny was having a jolly old childhood, couldn't have been the most nicest little kid you've ever known,
Mhm.
and it's like, did you skip the part where you were abusing your child? You were exposing that child to abuse. He didn't have a magnificent, jolly old childhood. None of us that were kids at that age being told that we were out ethics, being told that we were in treason, being told that we had to make amends, being told that
Mhm.
we were adults in small bodies. No child having that experience by self-infantilized adults that bought the pitch of L. Ron Hubbard and acting deranged without a shred of concern about what we were going through. We were told, get with the program, adulticize yourself, adulticize yourself. It's like all this intellectual abuse that was leading to, including but not limited to, this sexual abuse.
Right.
So nobody had a good childhood when all your boundaries were crossed by degenerates, self-entitled degenerates that took it upon themselves to have not a shred of boundary between you and them. So,
Yep.
but at least I feel like Chris Cuomo is like, starting to understand. I mean, their interest has been piqued. Now that a conviction's on the line, all of these news outlets can, take a little bit more of the heavy lifting, because now the legal departments are really going to be like, yeah, okay, guys, there has been a conviction. Let's really
Yeah.
write about it. I mean, never mind that this dysfunction has been enabled for, and that's why I like I said, for you, Cassie, is like, the problem with the corporate media is also a cult problem, right? Because their incentives are all like this. So it's like, how
Yeah.
are they supposed to get it right when, this one's being told, don't really write about that. And, this publicist just told us to don't put that story in. And, it's all that undue influence that's behind the corporate media that nobody really understands how those publicists work, because the publicists are the literal launderers of image, the very sick bastards that are literally the gossip girls from literal hell.
Yeah.
Seriously, like they get told all the garbage. Okay, this is what we know. This is what happened. Da, da, da. Okay, let me call the one at the TMC. Okay, well, give us something nice. Okay, then let me call the ABC News. Okay, but don't talk about this, but don't talk about that. Okay, let me call, like, that's what the news cycle is. It's all
Yeah.
manipulated by these people that have all manner of, payments that really do sway their power for everything to go wherever. I mean, that's why right now this is a wrecking ball that we have, because whoever in the hell allowed these two prisoners of war to give that, we really want to believe a lot of victims. We really want to help everyone. It's like, who? What?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, we're not stupid, y'all. Like, yeah, you really did have us at hello for 2 decades plus. All of America, you had them at hello. Aren't you the cutest? Aren't you the best? But it's like, you turned into spoiled brats, completely dejected from reality. You're just used to all these, yes men around you that you pay me, pay for this, pay for that, pay for. They're paying for everything. So at one point, those $275 million are not a reflection of their worth or it's just because they have the access to the money to pay the thing. So, like, that's why
Yep.
influencer culture is so corrupt and so culty, like literally, because it's all just about buying influence. Oh yeah, I'm so successful, I'm so great. I mean, look at Jimmy Fallon. It's like, Jimmy Fallon's not a Scientologist, you guys, and he was just toxic AF. What does Jimmy Fallon have that is the same as Danny Masterson? Well, problems with alcohol to start. You know, that would be a
Yeah.
good start for Jimmy Fallon that really does play relatable, funny guy of the century that really did get paid. How many tens and tens and tens of millions? Maybe we should really stop paying these people so many millions because they really do buy the pitch that they're that special when they
Yeah.
couldn't be more ridiculous, people that spout platitudes about how to be a great person. I mean, even Ellen. For how long did that woman pretend that she was the brand of being nice and be kind to everyone, guys? Yeah, be kind to everyone, and she wasn't. And it's like, just don't be fake. At least be who
Right.
you are.
Honest.
I'm like, look at me. I'm like, we're not fake. We're literal, we're just telling it like it is, how we know. Like, we don't have to perform. There's nothing to perform about, and I hope that people can start graduating from what they've been sold on this pitch. And that's what I want for all these celebrities that are involved to really wake up, to really ask themselves those questions, to really go get real advocates for themselves, to go get therapists. If they don't want to go to a lawyer yet, well, then go to a therapist. Even you start with a therapist and start self-reflecting because you are all victims of betrayal blindness. At the end of the day, that's what so much betrayal does to you. And that's why, I feel for, all those Masterson kids. They didn't deserve what happened to them.
Right.
Never mind, they had it coming though, right? Because it's like, you can't divorce those two realities. They didn't deserve that. Like, they could have done fine without the scourge of the fucking S word being in their family. Let's just start by that. They would have been, maybe they still would have been crazy, Hollywood whatevers, but if the S word was not involved, at least maybe you wouldn't have had this. That's what I would say. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing that we would never know. Were they meant to have a normal American life and they could have all gone to do their things and not have to bother with the scourge of what happened to them? Yeah. Would Ashton and Mila would have been served off better if they wouldn't have had anything to do with these people too? Yes. Everybody would have been better off to not have a shred of thing to do with Scientology. The whole campaign, oh, this connection is so bad. Disconnect from all of these people. Literally, start looking out for your damn self. Disconnect, and then disconnect. Oh, but it's going to be so hard. It's going to be so... Well, you're addicted to a drug then. You're addicted to the drug of abuse. So then wake up to that fact. Oh, I like being abused? No, I don't like being abused. Well, you're getting abused. Newsflash. If you thought you weren't getting abused, you were. If you were told that you weren't because you could really float it, well, double check that pitch today. Take that pitch to your lawyer and see if that would pass a shred of lawyer that really cares for you. Because apparently, Sean Hawley, everything passed the smell test to that woman. There's no line of defense she wasn't willing to take.
Well, she's got her own skeletons too, so I'm sure that.
Well, and that's
something
the thing.
to
It's
do.
about all this stuff, Cassie. Is like there's like a ton of legal malpractice. They have all tons of skeletons buried in all of their closets because even the legal profession that does represent Scientology with all the top law firms in the country really taking retainer money from these people. That it'd be great to understand how they're going to defend it now that the stuff is becoming public AF. It would be great to hear a pitch that could really, really, really convince us that this was not slave master society from hell. That y'all with your university certificates, with the real certificates, Cassie, like, again, it's like, the people that are under the spell of L. Ron Hubbard have that as a plausible deniability almost, right? Never mind the deniability is full culpability, right? Because like that's how that double-edged sword works there. It's like, oh, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I'm fully guilty of it.
Yeah.
That's what L. Ron Hubbard left him with. That clown thing that you do at the circus, like flip this side, flip this side. I'm fully guilty, but I had not a shred of a clue. But I am fully guilty. It's like the same thing that happened to Charles Manson's followers. They had not shred of a clue. They were acting all like infantile and whatever, but it's like the cognitive dissonance and the insane plea, With Scientologists, it's funny. Like they always used to say, oh yeah, the courts allow people to plead insanity. That's such BS. No one can, that's just like, the psychiatry people that came up with that BS. And it's like, y'all might want to start digging into that one.
You might
Y'all
want
might
to
really want
use
to start
that.
considering that plead, because plead of insanity could really, really describe y'all's, you know, the aftermath of everything. And you know what?
Yeah.
It's like we don't wish that on our worst enemy. It's like that's why it's getting called out. Because why should more kids be exposed to this? Why?
Right.
It's like they don't deserve it. No childhood is bettered in these disgusting hotels. And I think that's, really where the passion comes in for us. It's like, as kids that grew up in these environments didn't serve our interest, we can only advocate on what could have served our interest now on the flip side of this thing as adults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm glad that it's being exposed. I think that I had no idea it would blow up this big, but I think it's shedding a lot of light, and I just hope that it continues and this doesn't just get swept under the rug of the news cycle, and I hope that it pushes that momentum forward a little
It's the
bit.
gift that keeps on giving, Cassie, because, again,
Right.
it's like there's civil lawsuits coming up. There's just more Jane Does coming up. Like growing up in Scientology, just do a video of more like what you mentioned, even the TikTok girls.
Yeah.
These parties were everywhere. And people finally are feeling that they're going to be believed, right? Look what these Jane Does had to do to be believed. Never mind
Right.
that not every of them was believed, right? So it's still like,
Right.
again, it's like when it's like, oh, it's such an injustice. Well, you know what? It doesn't look like it because, one of them was told, sorry, we don't know. So you really do see what these juries have to go through. It's not just willy-nilly, like they have to go through what they hear, right? Because they're not even privy to all the context. Never mind that, again, for us kids that grew up in those hotels interrogating every last shred of context, it doesn't make sense that these courts are very like, well, don't talk about that one, and that one
Right.
cannot
Like
be admitted. I'm like,
right. There's more context to the
I'm like,
story.
how do you not we cannot admit that they were video recording the sessions where we were telling them, begging them that, we were horrified that we literally had been affected by exactly what Danny was convicted of.
Yeah.
It's like, what? We're not allowed to say that they were video recording it and full knowing. We're not allowed to say it was all premeditated. We're not allowed to say that they literally knew everything. Like, that's why no one has plausible deniability. Like, nobody does. L. Ron Hubbard normalized for everything to be BPI, broad public issue. It's literally what they called it,
Yeah.
BPI. Oh, that's not BPI, and they would be controlling the communications like that, even with people. Like, somebody said, oh yeah, somebody went out to the over there. Hey, that's not BPI.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, what? BPI? I just thought about that. I'm like, yeah, that's what they would call broad public issue. That's not a broad public issue. And then also, like, if you said, like, oh yeah, Danny went out to eat with someone, that's Glutz PR. Glutz. So they called it Glutz. So
Interesting.
don't forward an enemy line also.
Yeah.
So they had all these ways to sanction communication in real time, making it sound very militaristic and very proper and very prominent. And we are really the army that's gonna, make everyone come to their senses about ethics. And it's like, it's just ridiculous,
Yeah, it is. It's entirely ridiculous. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited that this opens up the next phase of lawsuits, right? The civil suit can carry on. And I think a lot more fair game is going to be exposed in the civil suit. And the grand jury, like maybe we'll hear something about the grand jury investigation that was happening.
Well, and Cassie, too, I would like to refer everyone on the chat to my community post where I just, go follow the FDLE, you guys, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement on Instagram. That is supposed to be the agency that's the senior agency of Florida to, handle all human trafficking. It's basically the right arm of a of AG Mooney, Miss Mooney, who's the Attorney General, who blocked me on Instagram. Cassie.
Oh no.
So Ms. Mooney, who already blocked me on Instagram, you guys, because I asked her about what about the kids in Scientology. I was trying to tag her, and I'm like, wait, I can't find her Instagram account, and I'm like,
God.
oh, Ms. Mooney doesn't want to hear about the Scientology kids, you guys. So that means that we all have to go to Ms. Mooney's account. All of you all that ask, well, what can we do to help? I need you all to really actually help. Go to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement at FDLE Instagram account that they really do check, but they really have crickets. Like their Instagram account is dead. So for all of you that want to help, go to that Instagram account, and we are not asking you to pick it. We're not asking you to take a trip to Florida and go outside of their station and really go, what about the children of Scientology? But you know what? You can do that picketing right onto their Instagram account. Ask y'all's questions, literally.
Yeah.
There's
That's a
already a
good idea.
template like, why are you ignoring Scientology kids stuck in those hotels today? That's what we need to know. We need to understand what is the answer to that question, because that's the only way that, these people are going to do anything about it. If nobody asks questions, then they just play dumb. Those are the two modes that we continue to get. Play dumb, we don't know anything about it. Play dumb, we don't know anything about it. But, all of you, there's 107 people. I would love to see out of these 105 people, we just went down to 2. We just lost 2, you guys. People were like, hell no, I'm not writing
Well, I'm
nothing.
not doing that.
But yeah, I mean, Miss Moody, on her, I was gonna do this whole go to her website too, because she can't stop pitching how she really cares about human trafficking, you guys. I was gonna do a whole video that I haven't even had time to, but her literal website of Ms. Moody is all about, she really cares about the human trafficking happening at truck stops. Okay, so those are the ones she pitches that she really is interested to stop. She doesn't care about luxury hotels that operate in Clearwater, Florida. Ms. Mooney could not care any less about those hotels. But the truck stops she really cares about. So let's expand Ms. Mooney's awareness. So please, if there's 107 people here on the chat right now, if y'all have been listening to us and understanding what in the hell we're talking about, if you could just do us that simple, easy ask. Go ask a question of the FDLE, all the people there's tons of people there. I'm sure some of them want to do their job. So the sooner that we tell them what to do, the sooner they can do a job to do that. Because they can start pulling the records. How many minors are coming in? And that's what we need to understand. Like, miss us with, but it's a religion and everyone can do whatever. Like, miss us with that. FDLE at FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, on their Instagram account, just took photos of, of Miss Mooney going to some girls that, are missing somebody or something like that, exploited and missing children. They really want to, stop having, children go missing. Well, we would love to understand where all the missing children that are stuck in those hotels, like us, without a passport, without any shred of access to move, without a shred of accesses to agency, can, literally be helped in some sort of way. Because again, y'all have the laws already in the books. Y'all just having a lot of prosecutorial, discretion is what they have, these people. Oh yeah, let me be very if I can't win the case, then I won't make it. Well, you know what? She'll start winning the case when she has a reason to win the case, is how people start caring about things, you guys. So everybody needs to go to that Instagram account. Let's see. I'll tell you guys how many of you ended up. We'll count the comments.
We're just gonna check your work.
Well, and Cassie too, go ask questions in those comments, why not? Like, we have them there, people don't answer their phone, but you know what? They do check their Instagram account. Trust.
Yeah.
Their Instagram account is something that these people do check, and, there really
right?
It's totally public. It's totally public. So
they're concerned about what is on there because it's a public forum, essentially.
Never mind that they might block some of y'all, and we encourage everyone to be very respectful. I must ask tough questions that they don't want to hear, but I'm not,
Right.
you know, I never swear other than use abbreviations, MF. Well, I do swear too, but I mean, you guys, that's how we were raised. For all of you who are like, oh my God, Serge, I know. And we're trying to get rid of the swearing, but in those hotels, every other word was a full word. Never mind that they wouldn't abbreviate anything.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious because
Dixon. It's like,
that's so funny because growing up like in Christian cults, you're like not allowed to swear at all. So a lot of people leaving like really high control Christian environments will start swearing a lot, like as a way to be like, I'm not going to hell for this. It's fine. So it's funny the ex Scientology community versus like some of the ex Christian communities. We're all cussing all the time, but it's for different reasons.
and then there's a comment here that says, what about going to missing exploited children to IG or another way? Look, I'm all about that. And if you guys want to take that one on as well, by all means. I was trying to just give you one thing to do and see how we got done with that one.
Yeah.
Before starting to put, because the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, you guys, go to Marisol Nichols' account, okay? Because she posted a video there on her account where she's literally talking to the Center of Exploited Children. To one of the people.
Yeah, that I'm convinced that that like Marisol Nichols, and I'm convinced Thorn is this at this point too. But I think that in the same way that a lot of celebrities start churches or join church boards, it's a way to like move tax-free, tax-exempt money around. I think in Scientology, because they're so strict, you can't practice Scientology outside of Scientology. You can't start a Scientology church to funnel your own money in a tax exempt way. So I think these people are starting nonprofits that are not doing anything, that they're just able to move tax exempt money around. Because Hillsong in Australia has had whistleblowers come forward and say that Hillsong is laundering money. Like they are moving tax exempt money across international borders and putting it in different people's pockets. And it's absolutely money laundering. And I think it's just a front for, at best, just unethical things and probably illegal things. Because how can someone like Marisol Nichols say that she's combating child trafficking while giving her money to a child trafficking cult? Like you can't do that. That's not a thing.
It's not. It's just contrary facts, Marisol. Like L. Ron Hubbard would tell you, those are contrary facts. One cancels out the validity of the literal other. So, yeah, let's go to the Center of Exploited Children. I mean, all of those accounts. I mean, I think that's the most biggest possible best activism we can all do. Start asking a lot of questions. Leave them everywhere. Every time you watch something that doesn't make sense. And, I think Marisol Nichols should really start explaining herself, honestly, because, she's got the head of the human trafficking division of the LAPD there, talking about all this skinny about how they really do find trafficking victims. And never mind that Celebrity Center is filled with them and they won't recognize them because they did sign a contract. So apparently if you sign a contract, then it doesn't count anymore. That's all it takes. Never mind that fraud could be done through a contract. Right. But, right now, given that they do have the best of the best attorneys, well, you wouldn't think that the best of the best attorneys would have put their law licenses on the line writing sham contracts. Right, LAPD? That couldn't ever happen. You have never met any rogue lawyers in y'all's entire law enforcement career. Lawyers are just to be doing anything shady.
Yeah. I lost you for a second.
Yeah, same. I think we both kind of lost. Well, and I think we were gonna end off around this time too, you guys. But I think we're ending off on a positive note, on a note where make your voice count. Everyone's voice counts. This movement is moving because people are seeing through what in the hell is going on. We will continue to call out all the things that we have about these celebrities and contextualize the situation. And let's get everyone out of the burning hotel and let's see if the FDLE can really come in and help us, because so far they haven't, but maybe we haven't reached out enough. And again, it's like, nothing that I say or Cassie can say is going to make a difference. It's what y'all are going to say that is going to make a difference. We can only
Yeah.
come here and share our opinion and our thoughts, but we're just literally like one little drop of water. But
Yeah.
92 people that are here right now definitely are 92 drops of water. So you know what? 92 drops, we're getting this big.
A little puddle.
We'll be a little puddle, we'll be an annoying little puddle from hell
Yeah.
that, we'll really ask very tough questions. We don't need a lot. I mean, this is all common sense. We're not asking for the world. We're literally asking for enforcement of what is already in the literal books. So that's all. And we really care about this. All of you that are signing up every day to hear what we're saying, to get more educated, the more you know, the more you understand, what type of problem we're dealing with and how it is everyone's responsibility to advocate on behalf of kids. And the bigger we grow, the better we will be able to increase our standing in this advocacy that is very needed in this 2023 year, and not just for Scientology, for all manner of other groups that have not a shred of celebrity to them. So, and for even just victims that are not even in those type of cults, but, did grow up with very narcissistic fathers that are in our comments too. It's like we all have that in common now in this recovery process.
Yep. Well, thanks for going live with me and sticking with me through my Wi-Fi issues today.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm glad
Come
we
hell
can
or
have these
high water.
Yes.
We're showing up to these lives, you guys. Come hell
Yep.
or literally high water.
Literally.
And so yeah, thank you so much, all of you, and we will see you all very, very soon again. And I'll definitely follow Cassie, get to her YouTube. Let's get her some more subs, because we're going to continue covering all these angles of stuff that's coming up. And we got more things coming up very, very soon. So y'all check in next week.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.